Hey everybody, I'm Darts, and this is an intro to C++. So, C++ is a high-level language, which the short answer means that it needs a compiler to communicate directly with the computer. That means just writing all your instructions out and then compiling it with the compiler, and then you'll have an executable file. So, anything else you can figure out yourself on Wikipedia or Google the rest, but let's get it right into the syntax. So we have the double backslash, which is a regular comment. It's a full line comment, so you can start at the beginning of the line, or you can start, say, right here with just a couple of double slashes, and the rest of the single line will be commented out. Now this is a long comment. See, it's the backslash star, and then it goes until star backslash. I have that demonstrated up here. So I've got new lines here, but since it's in a long comment, then it's all commented out. Now it's useful for commenting out big blocks of code during debugging. So the first assignment that the compiler is going to see is include IOStream. Now this include statement, which is #include, is going to tell the compiler that it needs to go out and look for a file called IOStream, which it's going to immediately look in the where it knows already where the standard libraries are. So it's going to take IOStream and append the entire file right here. And that includes a lot of definitions and functions and stuff for input, output, variable manipulation. It's a really powerful tool, because I would hate having to declare everything from scratch at the beginning, and I know you would too. So after the include statements usually comes what namespace you're using. In this case it's std. For the most part you're going to use std. That's the standard libraries. It helps the compiler to know where to look for all our instructions. It's scoping everything to the standard libraries. Instead of having to declare it each time where it's going, this automatically makes it know where it's going. Really, this only comes into play when you start writing your own and you have to make your own namespaces, but, well, you'll see later. Just right now, using namespace std. Nope. At the end of each regular instruction, declaration, or whatnot, is a semicolon. This denotes to the compiler that it is the end of the instruction. Do it, now move on. Here we have int main. Now ignore the int for now, but main, the main function, it's home. It is where everything is executed from your program. It is the function that the compiler looks for so that it knows where to begin actually, designing the instructions for the executable file. So everything in here, function calls, declarations, input-output statements, whatever you do is going to actually be seen first. So no, it is a function. It requires curly brackets. There's an open bracket and a closed bracket. Like I said before, we have the type declaration int. That is an integer. It's going to expect to return an integer value. Now we'll get into return statements a little later as well, but basically it sends the value back when it's called. So if this were a private function, and you had variable equals the call to the private function, you'd return something. In this case, we'd return 0, so it would be kicking back, and the value would be 0 for whatever variable you had the function equal to. But let's get into a little less complicated stuff. An int var semicolon. This is a variable declaration. Variables are integers, decimals, float point, character, and I think even string. In C++, you can also make your own variables and your own structures and everything for it. but these are the ones that are built standard into the C++ libraries. So we have our integers, var, and math. Now the compiler is going to take these and have it set aside 2 memory locations when the program is started. When you execute the program, it's going to say, okay, we've got 2 locations in memory, 2 integers, and it's going to handle where those integers are and where they go and what happens to them on its own, according to your instructions. It's a lot easier than actually handling the instructions themselves. So cout, which is an output statement, tells us please enter an integer in a string format. So the string is denoted by these double quotes you got and a semicolon at the end of the line. And what this is going to do is take the cout statement, it's going to compute all the things on the other side of these redirectors, which in this case is just a string, and output it to the screen. Then it's going to move on to the cin, which is an input, note the opposite direction of the redirectors, and we have denoted var, which is an integer, so it's going to expect a keyboard input of integer from the user. And it's going to take that value and store it in the memory location that is associated with var. So, and then I have another cout statement. Note, I can have more than one output on a single cout statement as long as I separate them by redirectors. So I have a string variable var, which is now whatever value the user set for it, and an endline call, which carriage returns all this stuff, goes back to a new line. So what it's going to do is it's going to output the you entered and the value for var, and then go to the next line. And of course, semicolon at the end. These semicolons aren't actually shown, they're just to the compiler. So this is an assignment statement, and I just cut myself with a typo. Okay. Math is equal to var plus 5 semicolon. Now the easiest way to remember it is the stuff on the right is computed and then stored on the variable on the left. So var, which is whatever the input from the user was, plus 5 equals math. So math now has the value of var plus 5. For example, if I had 4 input here, math would equal 9. And then I confirm that I have cout redirectors string, I have the math variable, so it's 5 less, math is 5 less than variable, well, math is 5 more than variable, so 5 less than math. And then I have inline, and notice there's nothing here, but I continue more cout statements here with redirectors. This is because, again, the compiler just totally ignores white space. So I can do that and not worry about it going all crazy on me. Like, obviously an enter right here would, mess up the formatting, but it won't break it. So again, the return statement that we discussed, and the close bracket for the main function. So that's it. Let's go over to the console side and see what's up. I have a console-based compiler called G++. Pretty powerful compiler. I really recommend it. And I have the program's name, which is introbsad.cpp, an inline command of -o to designate a specific output file, bsod. And that was successful, so we're going to run our program called bsod. And we'll enter the integer 5, and there you go. As the program first started by outputting please enter an integer, and then waited for input from me, which I put in 5 and hit enter. So it spat out you entered 5, and then did its math, and then spat out which is less than 10. And the statement I can do math. So that's C++ then. If you have any questions, hit me up on IRC, and I'll be making show notes available, and also put the program that I wrote up there, along with some sample output. So, later everybody.